Poor Steve is a victim of misinformation.
You know, I think the White's Metal Detector is the best thing that ever happened to Steve. He gets lots of exercise and finds plenty of treasures. Today, White's Metal Detectors have a digital screen which shows you exactly what's under the ground.
No, it doesn't. Never did.
And the new White's Metal Detectors are so incredible that they filter out the junk metal and you only find the good stuff, like gold, jewelry, relics, and more.
Yeah, hi, this is 25 years later. This is my can of junk that I have to dig in order to get to the good stuff. I'm kind of, yeah, my wife's gonna kill me. She had big plans for that potted plant. Kind of putting what doesn't fit in here.
Each page is filled with detailed product information, even some true stories about treasures found with White's Metal Detectors. This is one hobby that more than pays for itself.
There's just one downside. I don't have enough fingers.
Well, you'd have rings on your toes if you told your husband to dig in all metal. Now, we've already covered target ID. Don't go by numbers, go by sound. And why I believe all metal is the best way to hunt. Treasure can appear at any number. But I want to go into another topic today. Is swinging low and slow still the way to go in the 2020s? Now, for anybody who's new to metal detecting, what we mean by low and slow is low, coil as low to the ground as possible. And slow is referring to the swing speed, a slow and controlled swing. So let's compare the reactions of a 2010s metal detector with the current one. Now here's the fun part of owning 23 detectors. This was one of my first, the Minelab Safari, and a great machine for its time. Now look at how I have this set up: quarter, nickel, dime, quarter, nickel, nickel, quarter, bunch of coins. You get the point. Now, watch this. Blends together, right? Now, slow down. It's like calling nickel over the quarter. Now it's high. It's merging all of these together. Okay, now it's time for the Manticore. Oh, my poor Safari, I used to love you. Still kind of do. Don't think I'd use you, though. And just for the sake of going slowly, before we continue this video, really quick and friendly reminder to please, if this helps you, hit that subscribe button. In the last 28 days, 82% of the people who watch my channel are not subscribed. That helps me, helps my channel keep growing. Thank you. Are we conditioned to go low and slow when we metal detect?
It goes deep, I tell you. I think the big key with that using the 4 kilohertz is you got to really go low and slow.
Low and slow is the conventional wisdom.
And all you guys out there, you take it to your areas that you've hunted and hunted and hunted, and you think they're hunted out. Trust me, they ain't hunted out. You take that Equinox out there and you put that 4 kilohertz on and you go low and slow.
Could low and slow be advice from another time when processors were slower?
And you're going to be digging stuff, I'm telling you. That thing rock.
Yeah, and particularly if you put a lower recovery speed on your detector, then and plus maybe the 4 kilohertz, you can and go low and slow. Yeah, you should get some good results.
Treasure Talk team, I'm not trying to throw shade at you, your knowledge at all. In fact, listen to this guy. So, to sum this up, swing slow, swing low. Why do I always wear red when I talk about swing speed? It just so happened I saw that clip the day after I spoke to the head of marketing for XP. And I just got my Nexus metal detector, and I have spoken to the founder, Georgi Chausev, many times. And over the last week, he told me a bombshell. He suggested to go deep, don't go too low to the ground with the coil. The logic is the closer that you get to the ground, the more disturbance that you get. He suggested that you swing 2 to 4 inches above the ground. Here's an example of Georgi swinging or demonstrating the ideal swing, and you can see it looks to be above 2 to 3 inches above the ground there. And he explained to me that there is a certain amount of ground noise that comes from mineralization or perhaps smaller pieces of metal that can really interfere with your search. In other words, for the deepest signals, you are listening for little breaks in the threshold, and the small amount of ground noise can interfere with that. So it's optimal to bring the search coil up to not be low. The Nexus is an analog detector, and he described filters being put in most detectors. Most people don't want to hear that ground noise. On the Nexus, if you swing too low, you will hear that ground noise, but it also gives you exquisite depth. Now that you've seen an example of a metal detector that is not meant to be swung super low, let's give you an example of a metal detector that was designed to be swung super fast. Look at the design of these two metal detectors. They are meant to be light and moved very, very quickly. One piece of advice that I took with me from my conversation with XP is do not be scared to swing fast. This is Alain Loubet, the founder of XP. Founders of a company set the vision for a company, and there's no wires, there is no extra weight. Everything that is here is meant to be extremely light so that you could move it like Gary. Gary's a madman.
Here we go, we're on a bit of a busy patch, still reactivity 0.
He had to stop that day out of fear of starting a brush fire.
All frequencies find all targets. It's the ground and the mineralisation what dictate the performance. So what I'm saying here is try not to overthink frequencies at this point, because I think there's some more important features that you should be looking at. Now, when I go onto a new field, the first thing I tend to adjust or pay attention to is the reactivity. Now, a lower reactivity can indeed give you more depth, but certain sites won't allow you to use a lower reactivity.
XP uses the term reactivity, but it's the same thing as recovery speed for Minelab and Nocta. I'll say this, on a Minelab or a Nocta, if you swing too fast with a low recovery speed, watch what happens. See, if you're swinging like this, nothing. You see that? Doesn't even pick it up. Watch again. Doesn't even pick it up. Best practice for detectors that have reactivity or recovery speeds is to time your swing. Have it correspond. Let's put it that way. Have it correspond to whatever the recovery speed or reactivity setting that it is. If it's low, swing slower. If it's fast, if it's a high number, so you can swing faster. I would say from using all of these detectors, it's less important. It's like baked into XP products that you're gonna swing fast, and you could get those deeper targets when you swing fast with the XP. What really interested me about this video is Gary speaks on a sweet spot.
The real test is when you're actually swinging the machine in the field. So what I'm saying is, if you use a lower reactivity, you can get more performance, but when you're actually swinging the machine, the reactivity can make the machine go out of shape if it's too low. So there's a stubble field just over there. Let's do a little reactivity test. So here we go, I'm using the sensitive program with no adjustments made. And the sensitive program uses a 2.5 reactivity. Can you see it there? Okay, so this is 2.5. Everything's standard. And we're in that horrible stubble again. Iron. Let's find a clear patch of stubble and we can demonstrate what happens when we get this reactivity too low. Theoretically at 0 your machine should be the most unstable. So let's get it on a little busy patch and see if it changes. Here we go, we're on a bit of a busy patch, still reactivity 0. Can you hear these false chirps?
Now, unlike the Nexus, which has its sweet spot high above the grass, the stubble, you could hear him pushing this in to the stubble.
Can you see all this false shouting has faded out? The higher the reactivity goes, the quieter the machine becomes. So you've got to just balance it and get that sweet spot and find what reactivity settings best for that field. I know we all want to go deep, lower reactivity, deeper, yeah, but do you want to punish yourself at the same time?
Now he's about to go down to reactivity 0. Let's see if his swing changes.
Right, let's go down to 0 again, just to demonstrate it straight away.
I think that's a no.
So in this instance, I think, I'm sure you'll agree with me, 2.5 or 3 is the go-to setting for this field. So that's going to be the start of my custom program. Reactivity 2.5.
Now the Safari and before, you know, this is your reason. This is the origin of swing low, swing slow. I would argue that you don't, to a lesser extent, you need to do that. No, Merrill, I'm going to stop you right there and I'm going to contradict that. Let me put it all out there. With the modern fleet of detectors, low and slow is dead. Each detector is different. You got to search for it. Search for what works for that detector. Like we said, the Nexus, it's going to be high. That's probably not going to be the case for the XP. You saw Gary like really right on the grass top right there. But let's talk about utility here. Like, what is the utility of having a detector that can tolerate a fast swing? Well, for those of you who like gridding, it's a lot more efficient doing this than doing this. You know, you can go and increase the foot speed a little bit. And, you know, if you picture the big grass fields in Europe that have been heavily hunted, I can imagine that there is a utility for that. In the bottle cap rich fields of New York, I suppose that makes you have to slow down a little bit because it sounds like a machine gun. All of the signals that we have, aluminum and all that great stuff, and the treasure mixed in. Oh, the joys of detecting. There's a detector for each setting. You really have to think about it and find. You know, just one thing in closing. We used the example of the Minelab Safari in this video. The one that I always get in trouble for with people in the comments is the CTX 3030. The reason that I put that down is it is a low and slow detector. It does not separate like a modern detector. And let's just leave it at that. The new generation of detectors has really challenged the notion of low and slow.